Imagine a world 66 million years ago. Picture a massive beast roaming the plains of southwestern North America, blissfully unaware that its days were numbered. This colossal creature wasn't just another dinosaur. It was the final representative of its kind, the last of its species to ever walk across North America. But the legacy of this giant doesn't end there. In fact, it still holds a record today as the largest known terrestrial animal to have ever inhabited North America. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Alamosaurus. Despite its immense size and power, this dinosaur's story is one that's as fascinating as it is tragic. Despite its incredible achievements, Alamosaurus has remained relatively under the radar compared to other late Cretaceous North American dinosaurs. It's also not as famous as other mainstream giants like Brachiosaurus or Argentinosaurus. This is quite puzzling, especially when you consider that, in addition to its massive size, Alamosaurus caught the attention of paleontologists quite early on. Its existence was first recognized in 1921 when a shoulder and pelvic bone were discovered in the deserts of New Mexico. From the moment the bones were found, Charles Gilmore, the paleontologist who discovered them, realized that this was a brand new type of sauropod. However, since the bones only represented a small portion of the full body, there weren't many details that could be revealed immediately about this new dinosaur. Nonetheless, Gilmore described Alamosaurus just 1 year after its discovery, naming it Alamosaurus sanguinis, in honor of the Alamo Formation where the fossils were found. Ironically, the name Alamosaurus became its first claim to fame, but for the wrong reasons. Many people mistakenly believed that the Alamo in its name was linked to the famous Alamo in Texas, causing quite a bit of confusion. However, in reality, Alamo Formation, where this dinosaur was discovered, has no relation to the Alamo in Texas. Alamosaurus failed to generate any meaningful buzz during the early and mid-1900s, since the little bones that were known only indicated it to be a mid-sized sauropod and nothing more. However, everything changed in the 2000s when multiple discoveries revealed that Alamosaurus had been an unknown giant all along. These discoveries specifically consisted of a giant fragmented leg bone, a separate yet equally large cervical, and a juvenile specimen, which turned out to be the most complete fossil of any known Alamosaurus to date. The completeness of the young Alamosaurus allowed paleontologists to determine that the giant isolated fossils did indeed belong to Alamosaurus, and showed that this creature got much bigger than originally thought. In fact, these new finds pretty much thrust Alamosaurus straight to the top of the list of North America's largest dinosaurs. Estimates suggest that, on average, these titans could reach about 26 meters, 85 feet, long from head to tail, while standing 5 meters, 16 feet, tall at the shoulders and weighing about 39 tons. Even at this size, Alamosaurus is one of Earth's largest sauropods. But, like many other long-necked dinosaurs, certain individuals could get much bigger than the rest. The largest Alamosaurus probably came in at around 30 meters, 98 feet, and weighed 88 tons, making it more than 8 times the weight of a fully grown T-Rex, the largest North American terrestrial predator of all time. When compared to other sauropods, Alamosaurus completely blows all other North American sauropods out of the water, including the famous bunch that lived together during the Jurassic period, which included Apatosaurus and Brachiosaurus. On top of this, large Alamosaurus specimens likely rivaled even the largest sauropods seen on other continents too, with paleontologists generally considering it to have been similar in size to behemoths like the South American Argentinosaurus and the Asian Ruyangosaurus, the former of which is often considered to be the top contender for the largest dinosaur ever. Coming from the late Cretaceous, it may not come as a shock that Alamosaurus was a member of the Titanosaur clade. These dinosaurs dominated the entire span of the Cretaceous, being the largest and most widespread sauropods around, existing on all 7 continents. Within this group, Alamosaurus is generally placed in the Saltosauridae family, a family of dinosaurs characterized by having 35 or fewer caudal vertebrae. Another feature that made Saltosaurs stand out was not only their occasional massive bodies, but also their protective armor. This adaptation helped them defend themselves from various threats, playing a vital role in their survival during the Cretaceous period. This part may come as a bit of a surprise, since most people don't think of sauropods as being armored. However, Alamosaurus and the rest of its family did indeed possess a fair degree of armor, which came in the form of bony scutes. It's not well known how much of its body was covered by this armor, but recent finds suggest that, at the very least, part of its back was covered by these bony plates. What's more, these scutes may have been a bit pointy, as certain paleontologists have found remains that appear to take a more spiky shape rather than a round one. This means that this titan could have been walking around with giant spikes along its back and possibly other parts of its body too. These scutes are thought to have played a role in protection against attacks from predatory theropods, or they could have been used as a form of social identification and display. Whatever the case, these spikes were no doubt useful, yet they still weren't Alamosaurus's top defense. That was its skeletal structure. Compared to most sauropods, Alamosaurus had an extremely robust body, with both its neck and chest being especially sturdy. This gave Alamosaurus a big boost in durability and kept its most vulnerable organs well out of harm's way. Matured large adults were practically untouchable by any carnivorous dinosaurs. However, juveniles and smaller adults, on the other hand, were not 100% safe, as they did live alongside Tyrannosaurus, and Alamosaurus actually coexisted with both species of the tyrant lizard, T-Rex, and the older Albertosaurus. Both of these species were giant, and were actually known to have attacked and scavenged Alamosaurus, as certain specimens bear healed bite marks, indicating active predation, while other fossils show unhealed bites, meaning that the individual was already dead or died during the attack. However, the predation of Alamosaurus was ultimately uncommon, as the vast majority of specimens show no bite marks at all, showing just how valuable size was. If you lived alongside the king, sometimes size and bony armor were the ultimate protection, but not always. Scutes weren't enough, and that's why some paleontologists assert that Alamosaurus likely had an active defensive weapon too. Its tail, like many titanosaurs, was quite long and whip-like, although not as long as the tail seen in Diatocids. Nevertheless, many believe that Alamosaurus potentially wielded its built-in whip as a weapon. This theory gains more credibility when you consider that titanosaurs have the highest rates of tail damage among any sauropod group, even outclassing the Diatocids, indicating that their tails were quite active, so to speak. The injuries in question often consisted of force-based trauma, raising the possibility that the tail was indeed used as a weapon. Overall, Alamosaurus no doubt had an imposing appearance, which has helped increase the amount of attention it has received. Another detail that has added to the resurgence in interest, which has nothing to do with its size or physical appearance, is when it lived. Alamosaurus lived during the late Cretaceous, specifically between 70 and 66 million years ago, a monumental time to be alive. This period is now referred to as the sauropod hiatus, a time when sauropods suddenly vanished from North America. This absence lasted for over 30 million years until Alamosaurus showed up. This pivotal gap in sauropod history has generated a lot of debate over the years, both about why they seemingly vanished and how Alamosaurus appeared millions of years later. The most common explanation is that their disappearance was the result of an extinction event, with paleontologists citing competition with ornithischians, such as Hypsilophodon, and the expansion of the western interior seaway as potential causes. As for the appearance of Alamosaurus, the common thought is that it managed to repopulate southern North America after migrating there from South America, or possibly even from Asia, though this idea is less accepted. Of course, by the time it entered the continent 70 million years ago, Alamosaurus still had to contend with plenty of competition and a rather large western interior seaway. Yet it managed to thrive despite seemingly not being too different from its distant ancestors. There was no significant change in its diet, as it still possessed rod-shaped teeth that were used to crop and strip vegetation from medium to tall trees, just like its predecessors. Additionally, the discovery of stones within multiple specimens' stomachs confirmed that Alamosaurus routinely consumed rocks to aid digestion, a common trend seen among other sauropods as well. Nevertheless, its arrival resulted in Alamosaurus being an extreme success, and it even became one of the most common late Cretaceous dinosaurs in North America, with an especially high prevalence within what is today the U.S. Its apparent high population was so staggering compared to other dinosaurs that paleontologists actually use the term Alamosaurus fauna to describe the general life found within certain areas. Along with strong numbers, Alamosaurus was also able to re-establish a respectable domain for sauropods, with fossils being found throughout a large portion of the southern United States and northern Mexico. In these lands, populations would have lived in both coastal habitats bordering the western interior seaway, as well as inhabiting semi-arid inland plains, where relief from the dry climate was found in the form of rivers, swamps, and lakes. Alamosaurus lived alongside a large variety of different dinosaurs, including species like Ohocatops, Glyptodon, Topella richardoia, Oho raposa, Dinobellor, Torosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Bravocatops, Gryposaurus, Catosaurus, Cesus, undetermined Ankylosaurus, and many others. Non-dinosaur life was also very abundant in these areas, represented by numerous fish, rays, amphibians, turtles, snakes, lizards, crocodilians, mammals, and pterosaurs. Theosaurus, in particular, was quite abundant, with species like Well and Hopas and Quellcatlas being the most widespread. Interestingly, Quellcatlas was so common in areas where Alamosaurus fossils have been found that some paleontologists have wondered if there might be a connection between the two, much like the relationship between certain birds and elephants, or between fish and whale sharks. In any case, Alamosaurus and Quellcatlas would have been a common yet breathtaking sight, as both were giants in their own rights. Ultimately, Alamosaurus was the true titan of these lands, a distinction it held until the very bitter end. An end that perhaps should have come later than it did, as like many others, it too was still kicking 66 million years ago when the KT extinction event occurred. But what's interesting about Alamosaurus is that bones belonging to a juvenile were found only a few feet below the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary, making it one of the youngest known dinosaurs and presumably one of the last non-avian dinosaurs around. Perhaps not a surprising feat for North America's largest and last titan, but, as mentioned, Alamosaurus was not the only North American dinosaur to make it to the end of the Cretaceous period. In fact, there's another dinosaur whose fossils have only been found a few inches below the KT boundary, making it one of the youngest dinosaurs known to science. It's also the only dinosaur known to have injured the T-Rex. So, if that sounds interesting, check out the video I just made on that recently. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment on what you thought after watching. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.